When I understood this, client acquisition became easy, okay? I'm gonna give you a full breakdown of how I see client acquisition and how I see systems. By the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm Ani. I was able to book over 3,000 qualified appointments for the B2B industry. I help high ticket B2B service providers making more than 30K a month, building insane outreach systems. We've already generated multiple six figures for the industry, if not seven by now. So let's dive into this. Let me explain my client acquisition paradigm. Because this is the exact same system we're using for our clients and the exact same system we're using for our own agency. For example, last month we booked 90 meetings for our own agency. Pretty cool, right? With a 25% sales conversion rate, you can just get the numbers, right? So, how the hell do I see client acquisition systems? Let's get into this. Client ACQ, that means client acquisition, okay? So, first of all, we have inputs, right? And a lot of you don't know what inputs are. I mean, you may have some basic understanding, but I'm going to tell you exactly what inputs are. Inputs define the system. They're what you put in the system, the thing that you put into the system. That's what inputs are, right? It's nothing crazy. People talk about all that nonsense when it comes to systems. Inputs are the beginning, right? Think about it. You have a transportation system, like, transportation system of people, public transportation. What are the inputs? Inputs are people, people getting into the train. Then we have the process. There's one more thing before the process. We have the constraint. We're gonna put it like this. You have the constraint of the system. So system is already gonna be constrained by this thing right here, right? So for example, let's say you're doing cold email, right? There's always the constraint of how many leads you can reach out to. Because if there were unlimited leads, which is, of course, there cannot be unlimited leads because there's not unlimited people. But if there were unlimited leads, you can make, by theory, unlimited amount of money from cold email, right? But you can't. There's a cap. We have the constraints, and then we have the processee. We have the process, right? So when you think about it, let's say you're cooking a pizza. You made up your, I don't know what the thing is called, like you made up the ingredients. Now the process is how do you cook up the ingredients? What do you do next? You have the process in cold email, in LinkedIn outreach. The process are going to be your scripts, where the people are getting redirected to anything before the sale actually happens, right? Super simple. And then we have the outputs. By the way, credit to Sam Ovens. He's a big guy in this. That's where I learned this shit. Credits to Sam Ovens. But he doesn't talk about constraints. He doesn't talk about this. Then we have the outputs, right? Very simple. Outputs are clients, what the system yields from these inputs. So how many of inputs get processed into our desired result, which are ultimately clients or appointments, but ultimately clients. And then we have the feedback loop. I'll just put it like this. Feedback loop, what does that mean? I mean, a lot of people know how important feedback is. Even in scientific method, right? You have the analysis and all that shit. Like that's what the feedback is. It's the analysis of the system, and then feedback without implementation is bullshit. So always, when you get the feedback, when you get your metrics, you want to implement it back into the inputs and back into the process so that you're nailing in your system, right? Though this is what feedback is. It's usually seen when we're talking in client acquisition terms. It's usually metrics, sales. This is what inputs give you, right? This is what metrics. And then the last thing is all of this thing is in one big environment, right? So everything operates in an environment, right? Like if you imagine this, it's all in an environment, which is ultimately the industry you're in. So this environment, this circle is like very vague. It's hard to explain it. Like markets, they're weird, man. Like super weird. But let me just break it down for you very easily because even I don't understand this thing properly. Like maybe some fucking broker or some hedge fund does. I don't. So environment, for example, I help high ticket B2B service providers. The B2B industry, that's my environment. because some systems are created to perform in one environment and not in the other one. To give you an example, if you try to do cold email to lawyers or dentists, it's probably not going to work as well as if you did it to coaches or or let's say landscapers, because those people are not prone to receiving cold emails and they don't even check their inbox. They have an assistant, right? So it all is operating in one big environment, just like the nature, right? You have your fucking ecosystem in the nature, but it's all a part of the nature, right? So that's the environment. This is it. This is how I see client acquisition systems. It was a pretty cool video. Super happy to be recording this one because I was just able to put my knowledge on paper and essentially everything that I've learned when it comes to the systems thinking and system shit. Like I have a book somewhere. Yeah, my phone is on the book. It's basically Systems Thinking by Donella Meadows. Crazy one. Have to read this one. So this is it. I'll see you in the next one.